House, I've been consistent. I've been speaking the same language for a decade now.
A bill that now has support from both the House and Senate has reached another hurdle to get full funding. Thanks for joining us here at 11 o'clock. I'm Nicole Griffin. Senate Bill 1 would establish a statewide crisis response system to support Hoosiers going through a mental health or substance abuse crisis. Supporters share with our Amber Grigley concerns for SB1 after last week's proposed Senate budget lacked full funding.
Senate Bill 1. A bill supporters say will set the state up with ways to save more lives. However, approving full funding that will really address mental health needs in the Hoosier state is a battle that is far from over.
Well, I think funding is always the hardest part of when you start talking about changing the way we deliver services.
It's been a long-fought battle getting lawmakers to approve full funding to support SB1.
The delivery model that we're using now is something that's been in place since John Kennedy was president.
A model that will now require roughly $130 million annually to address mental health in the Hoosier state.
As of today, only about $35 million has been committed,
which is about 15% of the full funding needed to support SB1. Now, that doesn't even scratch the surface for what it's going to take to establish a statewide crisis response system for Hoosiers to access three things:
a number to call, 988, where someone's in crisis, a person to come, a mental health expert, and then a place to go in a crisis center.
Senator Michael Kreider says his main goal is to make sure they have a stable funding stream for SB1 that won't be threatened in future budget cycles.
I think there's a lot of will to fund the bill. It's the mechanism that we use to fund it that's really in question.
So far, the House has discussed increasing cigarette and alcohol taxes to help with full funding.
This is one of those situations where we're going to have to make the investment and become a mature system.
We, as a state, we tend not to invest in the well-being of our people.
Continue to support this cause nationwide, Heavenly Father.
Faith in Indiana have supported SB1 since the beginning. Supporters say after the bill passed in the Senate and House, it's now time for lawmakers to show action.
What if they meet back and say, hey, we cannot approve any more funding?
That's just a story we're going to have to tell. Are we a state that cares? Do we have budgets that care? Or are we a state that would rather give corporate tax breaks and doesn't really care about its people? That's a story we'll have to tell.
We've gotten ourselves in a position where if there ever were a chance, I think the chance is this year.
I'm Amber Grigley, WRTV.
Now, Senator Kreider tells Amber the final budget proposal will come out tomorrow. He is optimistic, but knows that negotiations from both the Senate and House will take place to reach a decision on SB1.